On the news tonight, arraignment of Godwin Emefiele stalled as Federal High Court strikes out charges against him. Speaker House of Reps announces replacements for some committee chairmen. Poultry farmers appeal to federal government to save the sector from collapse. Good evening and welcome to NTA Ijebu News at 7. I'm Oroluwa Egona and here are the details of the news. A federal high court sitting in Lagos has struck out the 2-count charge bordering on possession of firearms and life immunizations preferred against the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, for lack of diligent prosecution. Adeola Konmi Akere reports.
While delivering his final ruling on the matter concerning the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, Justice Nicholas Owebo noted that the conduct of the prosecuting counsel shows that they do not have respect for the rule of law or obey court judgments. Justice Owebo therefore concluded that it is only fair to keep the integrity of the court intact and struck out the charges as it lacks diligence and sufficient prosecution. Former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Ogun State speaks on the ruling and its implications.
To my mind, it was a good decision to make, because if he had refused to strike out the charge and followed the line of thinking of the defense to insist that certain things be done by the prosecution before the charge could be withdrawn, he rightly observed that they would not prosecute the case, and at the end of the day, he would end up striking it out for want of diligent prosecution and lack of evidence.
Meanwhile, the federal government has filed a 20-count charge against the suspended CBN governor. In Lagos, Adeola Konmi Akere, NTA News.
The arraignment of the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, before the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory sitting in Abuja has been stalled. Emefiele, who was in court, could, however, take his plea. Dele Yatumbi of our Judiciary Desk reports.
The government of Nigeria filed a 20-count charge bordering on alleged procurement fraud against the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, and 2 others. In this criminal matter, the federal government of Nigeria is the prosecutor, while Godwin Emefiele, Saidatu Yaro, and a firm in which the second defendant has economic interest are the defendants. Godwin Emefiele, who was docked on a 20-count charge, could not take his plea due to the absence of the second defendant, Saidatu Yaro. The prosecution counsel, who is the Director of Public Prosecution of the Federation, Abubakar Muhammad, after the matter has been called, informed the court of the absence of the second defendant as a result of ill health. In the light of this, the prosecution counsel pleaded with the court for an adjournment for the prosecution to be able to produce the second defendant in court. Counsel to Emefiele as the first defendant, Akinko Tukende, SAN, did not oppose the application of the prosecution. Emefiele and 2 other defendants will be standing trial on a 20-count charge bordering on alleged procurement fraud running to 6.9 billion naira.
They wanted to arraign him today on a 20-count charge bordering on procurement.
The presiding judge, Justice Amsa Mwazu, adjourned the matter to 23rd August 2023 for proper arraignment of the 3 defendants. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
Recent economic policies of government have emphasized the need for ministries, departments and agencies to imbibe prudent spending of financial resources entrusted to them for public good.
The authority of the judiciary, having also adopted this principle, is inculcating it in its finance directorate under the auspices of the National Judicial Institute. The capacity building workshop in Abuja is also enshrining the tenets of integrity, transparency in public funds management.
All kinds of corrupt practices, bearing in mind the provision of code of conduct for judicial officers.
Fresh perspectives on how to maximize the judiciary's financial resources are expected from the meeting.
President Bola Tinubu has assigned portfolios to those who sail through to form his cabinet for smooth operation of his administration. Until the swearing-in, which will be expected on Monday, here's the full list of the ministers and their portfolios.
of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, Minister of State, Environment and Ecological Management, Ishaq Salako, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Wale Edu,
Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Bumitui.
Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu,
Minister of State, Health, Tunji Alausa.
Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, Minister of Tourism, Lola Adejon, Minister of Transportation, Adeboyega Oyetola, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Anite, Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Nnaji, Minister of State, Labor and Employment, Nkiruka Onyejocha, Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy, Minister of Works, David Umahi, Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Kemo, Minister of Youth, Abubakar Momo, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Peter Edu, Minister of State, Gas Resources, Ekberikpe Ebo, Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, Heniken Olokobere, Minister of Sports Development, John Eno, Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, Minister of Art, Culture and the Creative Economy, Hanatu Musa, Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, Minister of State Defense, Bello Matawale, Minister of State Education, Yusuf Sunumu, Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dangiwa, Minister of State, Housing and Urban Development, Abdallah Gwaruzo, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, Minister of State, Federal Capital Territory, Meriga Mahmood, Minister of State, Water Resources and Sanitation, Bello Goronyo, Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kiari, Minister of Education, Tahir Maman, Minister of Interior, Saidu Alkali, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Ali Pate, Minister of Police Affairs, Ibrahim Gedam, Minister of State, Steel Development, Meigari Ahmadu, Minister of Steel Development, Shaibu Audu, Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Latif Fagbemi, Minister of Labor and Employment, Simon Lalong, Minister of State, Police Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Zephaniah Jaselu, Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Joseph Usev, Minister of State Agriculture and Food Security, Ali Sabi Abdullahi.
Speaker House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas has announced replacements for some House Committee chairmen who have been appointed ministers by President Bola Tinubu.
Signed by the Speaker, Representative Mahmoud Abdullahi is now Chairman, House Committee on Army, while Representative Pascal Abodike becomes Chairman, House Committee on Hydrological Services. Others are Representative Dennis Idahusa as Chairman, House Committee on Healthcare Services, Representative Emmanuel Upongudo, Chairman, House Committee on Electronic and Digital Banking, while the House Committee on Institutional Reforms is to be chaired by Representative Bukar Talba. The appointment shall take immediate effect, while the legislative record shall be updated upon resumption of the House from recess.
An appeal has gone to the federal government to save poultry farming sector from collapse as a result of scarcity of poultry feed, lack of purchasing power to consumers, and insecurity of farmers in the country. This came to the fore as poultry farmers in Ijebu embarked on a peaceful protest to bring home their demands. Anthony Gadonu has the details.
Poultry farming, just like agriculture, is a thriving business which contributes 6 to 8% of the country's gross domestic product annually. The sector also enhances food security, reduce unemployment, as well as improve the nutritional value of citizenry. However, the recent hardship in the country occasioned by the subsidy removal has affected the sector, forcing many to fold up while those left are struggling to remain in business. This informs the peaceful protest by the association in Ijebu to appeal to the federal government to consider the sector in the formulation of its economic policies and programs.
We just finished taking losses in March, and just as we are trying to even recover and try to put things behind us, then subsidy came. Okay, with the subsidy now, the price of our major input, which is maize, has gone above.
The Zonal Chairman Poultry Association of Nigeria Ijebu branch, Mr. Femi Gavar, says the current situation in the country is taking its toll on their business.
We are facing challenges of feeding our animals. And the constituent of the feed, which 50% is maize, is scarce around the nation now. Aside unavailability and the price that is just skyrocketing and inflation, it is not available at all.
These challenges have affected the entire value chain of poultry business, including production and sales of produce.
A sector that is doing 6% to your GDP should be given a special status. What we are asking for now is for government to give poultry a special status in the scheme of activities within the Nigerian economy.
The stakeholders called for immediate solutions to avert total collapse of the poultry sector. In Ijebu, Anthony Gandonu, NTA News.
Financial experts say the depreciation in the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar can be arrested by restoring confidence in the national currency through various fiscal and monetary interventions. Discussing stabilizing the naira for the second time consecutively, they suggested a domiciliary account intervention scheme, among others. Details with Ekim Williams.
The declining fortunes of the naira against the dollar has been a subject of national concern. Since the government took the bold initiative to eliminate the multiple exchange rate regime, the naira has lost substantial ground to the dollar, reaching an all-time low of 940 naira to a dollar at the parallel market. Financial experts on the program say it is a reflection of the broader economic problems in the country, as well as the high domestic appetite for imported goods.
Had huge backlog of unmet foreign exchange demand, which on the back of the, liberalization of the exchange rate, those backlog were unleashed on the foreign exchange market. That was a very big one. Secondly, we had a lot of speculative activities driven by some level of uncertainty.
That the CBN in fintechs like the OP spread, there has to be a spread of financial institutions, because I think what happened when we were trying to do the Naira redesign was that the pressure on the banks with the population versus the bandwidth was not commensurate. They were not commensurate, right?
They commended the recently signed $3 billion funding deal between Afro-Exim Bank and the NNPC, describing it as a step capable of stabilizing the Naira. The financial experts suggested the introduction of tax or tariff concessions for local manufacturers, import substitution, and a domiciliary account crisis intervention scheme.
Major reform, I think we need, that needs to be undertaken going further is the reform of the foreign currency domiciliary account.
If you look at the problem we have around the surge in the oil prices, it is directly linked to the poor exchange rates that we are having, the devaluation in the currency, and also the depreciation in the currency in the market, in the black market. So ultimately, if this problem is solved, it will go a long way in solving most of our economic problems. But we can't just solve this problem by focusing on one policy aspect.
They further advised government to patronize made in Nigeria products. In Abuja, Kemini Williams.
Going on a short break, stay tuned, we'll be right back.
1,000. We go wash plate tire. Farabalẹ̀ now.
Madam, hello lówó wa.
Brother, na 3,005.
Màá fún yín ní owó pé káàdì Glo ẹlẹ́gbẹ̀rún 10,000.
Oh yeah.
Bring your phone.
Ha! 10,000.
1,000 naira credit. Now you turn to 10,000.
No. All of us don't know about Glo Berekete. Ní ìlọ́po mẹ́wàá nísìnyí.
Ṣé o ti gbọ́? Ìlọ́po mẹ́wàá ló máa gbà lórí iyekíye tó o bá rà sórí ohun ìpè Glo Berekete 10 times rẹ.
I told you. Now what go tell?
Welcome back. You're still watching NTA Ijebu News. Electricity, banking, aviation, and telecommunication, top sectors rendering dissatisfied service to consumers in Nigeria. This was pointed out at the August edition of the Bureau of Public Service Reform's Lunchtime Reform Seminar in Abuja. Adebola Brookston reports.
Prevailing market conditions have brought about challenging times. Competition is increasing for companies demanding better and more creative differentiation than just better pricing to maintain a competitive edge. Customers as king, role of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission in ensuring delivery and satisfaction of Nigerian customers is the focus of this month's Lunchtime Reform Seminar, organized by the Bureau of Public Service Reforms.
Our commitment to interagency cooperation is noted in the understanding that together we can tackle challenges more effectively and innovate for greater good of citizens of our dear country, Nigeria.
Executive Vice Chairman, Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, Babatunde Rukera, told the forum that businesses in Nigeria are currently faced with numerous challenges, including fast-changing global economic conditions, as well as fast-growing young population that is increasingly technology savvy. He, however, said the Commission is meeting up with demands from unsatisfied consumers nationwide.
We're engaging on a daily basis. First, we're resolving all these complaints as they come. We're engaging the regulators in each of these different spaces. I'd just like people to know that they shouldn't get frustrated with the violation of their rights. They should continue to demand their rights and insist.
Participants actively engage speakers on practical solutions that can be implemented across relevant agencies.
In our own courts, it is only consumer protection matters that we deal with and competition matters. So we can act faster and we can be speedy at resolving it. In our rules, we have set a target of a maximum of 90 days from the point at which you file your suit to the time when we give judgment.
The Commission assured Nigerians of continuous and tireless efforts to enhance consumer confidence and economic growth through fair competition. Adebola Brookston, NTA News.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has charged the leadership of the Nigerian Navy to intensify surveillance and enhance marine patrol of the Lagos waterways to check piracy and other forms of crime across the anchorage of the state. The governor gave the charge when he received the Chief of Naval Staff at the State House, Marina, Lagos. Musa Toliat has the details.
With the recent resurgence of criminality on the Gulf of Guinea recorded in the media reports of the International Maritime Bureau, the need for continued robust regional and international naval presence is required to address such security breaches. The visit by the Chief of Naval Staff to the State House is therefore aimed at discussing maritime security and getting the needed approvals to establish and operate naval bases in strategic areas of the state.
Naval bases in different locations in the state, such as the Ford Operating Base at Lekki, which you have provided land for it, the Naval Outpost at Takwa Bay, which you have also provided. We request your support to facilitate and issue final documentation for these lands so that we can kickstart the development in that area.
Apart from protecting the territorial integrity of the country's maritime domain, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu wants the Navy to work with the government to dislodge traffic challenges around the seaports in Apapa.
In Apapa area, we're making sure that the Apapa gridlock are things, of the past, and we'll continue to ensure that we'll put our men in that whole neighborhood, and we'll continue to receive support, security support, with LASMA and the Nigerian Police, Nigerian Navy, to ensure that we can continue to decongest Apapa ports at all times, because that's the gateway, for all of the goods that are coming into the country. We are here to continue to lend our support, and we are here to continue to create the ambience where everybody can live peacefully.
The naval boss also solicited the support of the governor to ensure that officers and ratings of the Navy have decent accommodation to aid their combat readiness. In Lagos, Musa Toliat, NTA News.
Acting Comptroller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service, NIS, Caroline Wuraola Adepoju, has called for sustained synergy between security agencies in the dual areas of border security and migration management to safeguard Nigeria's territorial integrity.
Boss also notes that a management training of security agencies at the top level should not be downplayed, especially now with challenges ranging from weapons smuggling, banditry, and other vices that may undermine the nation's security, rearing their ugly heads. Adepoju was speaking when the participants of the Advanced Security Management Course 3 of the National Institute for Security Studies paid a courtesy visit to the NIS headquarters. In a statement made available by the Service Public Relations Officer Ade Dotun, the acting CGI, who is also a fellow of the Institute, wants the participants to justify the confidence reposed in them, advising them to allow the knowledge gained to cascade to their subordinates and spread. And speaking on behalf of the participants, Deputy Comptroller of the Nigerian Customs Service, Abubakar Dalhatu Zurmi, said the Institute has changed its perception and that knowledge was acquired, experience was imparted, and all will be put to good use.
The renewed Hope Health agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu intends to cover over 50 million Nigerians, most especially the vulnerable. Special Advisor to the President on Health, Dr. Salma Ibrahim Anas, who said this at the National Healthy Aging Summit in Abuja, noted that the President is committed to achieving this within the next 4 years. Basi Ita Ikbank reports.
This is a gathering of senior citizens, but as I walked into the venue, I spotted women below the age of 60, and my curiosity led me to chatting with them. Mary is a widow who is also benefiting from discussions here. The summit is aimed at charting a new course for the care of the elderly.
Healthy aging, very, very important. Right now, the elderly cannot access quality health care in Nigeria. I don't think anywhere in Nigeria that has been achieved. So we need that. Educational opportunities, social protection, health investments, social infrastructure, physical environment, your neighborhoods and support networks determine longevity and quality of life. That's what healthy aging is about.
With the global data of 703 million persons aged 65 in 2019, the WHO country representative fears the number may double in the next 3 years.
Reiterate WHO commitment to support and actively participate in this partnership journey toward achieving the desired outcome in line with the UN resolution for the decade of healthy aging.
Special Advisor to the President on Health Matters says the President is committed to meeting the universal health coverage, including good health for the elderly.
Provide a focused care and quality health care for the aged and specialized services that will meet their needs through capacity building.
The summit therefore advocates developing an international policy framework for the elderly in line with SDGs 1, 2, 3, and 5. Basi Taipan, NTA News.
Following the raid on a community children's home at Nkwele, Ezunaki, where 19 children, including a month-old baby, were rescued, Anambra State Government and NAPTIP have mapped out more strategies to curb the ugly trend of stealing of children, illegal adoption, and fostering. Chinyere Fesi Okoye reports that among strategies include high-level meeting with licensed operators of orphanages in the state.
Buying and selling of children is not the sole aim of establishing orphanage homes. This is the reason this meeting is being organized by the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Welfare, Anambra State.
Remember the person on top of this administration. He has zero tolerance to illegality. So if you know you love what you're doing, run away from it. And I will stand and say this. We did not and we never appoint any consultant to handle adoption in Anambra State. But some bad among you, I don't know if they are here, are doing things in an illegal way. We are NAPTIP, law enforcement agencies. Our own is just to arrest anybody that have gone contrary to the law as it concerns adoption. And what we call it is buying and selling of human beings. And these acts of buying and selling are mostly perpetrated by people that have homes.
Ignorance of all they say is never an excuse. Therefore, there is need for collective efforts. When you see them, expose them. I urge the ministry to ensure that they are doing the needful by ensuring that they are close to the homes. A stitch in time, they say, saves 9. In Oka, Chinyere Fesi Okoye, NTA News.
To conclude tonight's news, let's take a look at our major stories once again. Earlier on, we told you arraignment of Godwin Emefiele stalled as Federal High Court strikes out charges against him. Also, Speaker House of Rep announces replacement for some committee chairman. Lastly, poultry farmers appeal to federal government to save the sector from collapse. That concludes tonight's news on NTA Ijebu. I'm Oluwa Egona. Have a good night.